the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast, brought to you by Thankfully GAMSAT. We're here to teach you how to smash the GAMSAT, get into medicine, and become a flippin' great doctor. Welcome back to the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast. This is where we guide you through every step of your medical school journey. I'm your host, Marie, and today I'm joined by someone who knows this process inside out. That is Bhakti, our lead interview tutor, a former Bootcamp member and now first year medical student at Notre Dame in Perth. She's been exactly where you want to be. And she's here today to help you avoid the common pitfalls. So welcome back to you. Welcome. So excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here as well.
It is fun. Bhakti and I have worked together for a couple of years, so I think it's super fun to be able to come back when you're so busy at uni that, like eye roll, you know that eye roll emoji?
Yeah.
Legit just became that.
I'm not busy. What are you talking about?
I totally have a life. I really
Yeah. Laugh or you'll cry.
So this kind of episode is kind of for you if you've smashed the GAMSAT, you've submitted an application, and now the interview has landed in your inbox. This is like the final gate. It's often worth like 50% or more. So, super important. And in today's episode, we're going to be breaking down what you're walking into and how to walk out with confidence. So as always, you'll find all the resources we mentioned today in the show notes. If you have any questions, of course, drop them in the comments or message us because we, Bhakti and I, but the whole team really want to make episodes that you really need. So let's start with why interviews matter. To me, what most people don't realize is they often count for like 50% or more of the criteria of getting in. So most people think, oh, okay, well, it's going to be 33% GPA and 33% GAMSAT and then 33% interviews. And that's just not the case, right? When you found this out, how did you feel, B?
I feel like you kind of have to realize that 50% of even the application is just like, if you don't have a good GPA and if you don't have a good GAMSAT, then you're not going to get an interview in the first place. But then once you get to that point, it's like, oh, like the interview is the deal breaker here now. And then it kind of just adds so much more pressure onto it because it's like you don't realize that, oh, it's not just 30%. It's worth like whether I get it or not. Like my GAMSAT and GPA are fine. Now it's like, am I like a person who they want in med school? So it just adds so much more pressure. But yeah, it is a big part of your application.
I remember I helped a student and she had a 68 GAMSAT get in. And her GPA was okay. It was like over 6.5, maybe 6.6, 6.7 something. So a decent GPA, okay GAMSAT. And then I spoke, and she was a student of mine, and then I spoke to a student that had a 72 GAMSAT and the same GPA, and he didn't get in, same university. And he's like, what? What happened? And I was like, dude, it was obviously your interview that you stuffed up. What did you do? And he's like, I was like, let's start with the GAMSAT. What did you do to prepare? Because obviously we want to see if we can even further boost up his GAMSAT. And he's like, he did this and that. And he actually had pretty good prep. And look, he got a good score. And then it was like, what did you do for the interviews? And he was like, well, I practiced with some friends and he didn't take it seriously because I don't think he realized that the 50% that it's like taking up basically as the selection criteria was that high. And I think if you're going to put in, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, I've got someone studying 24 months for the GAMSAT slowly, but that's what she's doing. Like, you got to kind of take it seriously like that. Not saying you need to study for that long, but you got to take it seriously. And I think that's a really big pitfall that people don't realize.
Yeah.
That you could be a GAMSAT genius, but if your interview goes crap, you're not going to get in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So explain to me, B, like, explain the different types of interviews, because there's more than one, and that's another thing that most people don't realize.
Yeah. So there's three broad types of interview styles. Depending on what university you apply to, they have different formats in which they test you. They're kind of testing sort of the same thing, but just different formats. So there's panel interviews, there's MMIs, and then there's like CASPer style interviews as well.
Everyone expects the MMIs. I feel like everyone's like, oh, they're all MMIs.
Yeah, they're not all MMIs. Like you'll walk in and they'll be like, oh, it's a panel interview. And all of a sudden you're like, I have no idea what that is.
I think they go sphincter clenching at that point.
They're like, and then these can either be like online or in person as well. So I know when I sat my interview, it was like you're talking to a camera. And then some of my other friends that I studied with in the bootcamp, they had panel interviews in which they're talking to like people in real life and they've got like a board of people sitting in front of them. So yeah, panel interviews are basically like you'll have 2 or 3 people and it's kind of like a structured interview in that they're asking you structured questions. It's not strictly timed, but you can go on tangents and you can like they can get to know you as a person. I guess like the pitfall of this though is just that like if you don't get along with one of the panelists or if you mess up in the beginning, it's kind of like you're kind of screwed for the rest of it and you have to like you have to bounce back from that, which can be hard as well.
That's like a job interview. That kind of feels job interview vibe-ish.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like you're just sitting in front of a couple of people and they're kind of just asking you lots of questions. And it's more conversational, I would say, compared to like an MMI, which is you've got 6 to 10 stations and you're either talking to a camera or you walk into a room and someone's just like stonewalling you inside. But so MMI stands for multiple mini interviews, which is kind of like, I think it kind of explains itself. Like there's lots of small interviews and you walk into a station and they'll ask you a question and you answer it. The good thing about MMIs is that if you mess up one of the stations, which people do, you can bounce back and you can recover and walk into the next one with a fresh set of, just fresh eyes and just walk in and you're able to recover from there. But it's very structured compared to a panel. So there's not really room to improvise. Usually you get like a very small amount of time as well. So you kind of have to sit there. It's similar to the CASPer, I would say, if anyone's done the CASPer before. But it's, no room to improvise. It's very structured, very timed. And if it's online, once the timer goes off, it's like, that's it. And then, even in real life, once the timer goes off, that's it. And you're out the room.
You can't really, it's not about getting to know your personality. It's about answering the question, that one. Whereas the panel interviews are a little bit more personal, a little bit more, I'd say like softer. Don't you think? Like it's just like a softer approach. Because MMI is like, tell me the answer. You ain't got much time. Let's go.
Literally, that's exactly what it's like. I did an MMI and that's literally how it feels like. They're like, here's a question, answer the question, get out.
Well, the way that I think about it, because you've been doing so long that back in the prehistoric days when they only did in-person interviews, when they were doing MMI, you want to just like imagine a corridor and there's all these doors off the corridor and basically they used to ring like a ding kind of bell and they'd have a piece of paper on the door and you'd read the question on the door and then another bell ding and you'd go in and there'd be people there and it'd either be a scenario with like a person being an actor or there would be like people sitting there that you'd answer the questions to and then ding, another bell, you go to the next door. So even when it's online, which most of them are now, it's a similar thing. You just don't have doors. It's not like a physical, but you have a certain amount of time that you got the question and the kind of stimulus and the situation and a certain amount of time to actually talk through. And this is where people go wrong. They're not talking through, they're thinking around why, they're just talking. And the biggest thing, and maybe we're going to talk about it later, but I'll drop it in now. The biggest problem that people have with MMIs is that they don't answer the bloody question.
Yeah.
They look at the scenario and they go, well, this is what I would do. But that's not always the question. The question is not what would you do? It's like, what are some of the issues to consider? Or what are the next steps that you may need to take taking into consideration these things, or who's going to be impacted by this wider decision that you need to make, or there's all these other questions. And so MMI, if you are not practiced in it, can be a little bit more challenging if you haven't got like structure on how you answer it. But anyway,
Exactly.
I
do agree. It's similar to like when you get into med school and you have to sit the OSCEs, like it's the exact same thing with walking to the corridors and ringing the bell. And it's like, if you don't have structure in how you perform like a exam or take a history, then, you know, you're kind of screwed. And it's the same with the interviews as well. Like you need to have structure, you need to have procedure. And not to say that like, oh, you need to script what you say or that it, you know, that you're following a script. Absolutely not, because they will be able to pick up on that. But it's more about just knowing that, okay, I've got a structure to follow as a backup if, you know, something goes wrong. But that I know how to structure an answer and, as you said, like answer the question as well.
Answer the bloody question. Remember in the bootcamp, that was like the number one thing I'd be telling people. Like, you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question. And here's the thing. If you think about it from the people that are going to be like reviewing your answers or like marking your interview, you could say, they're going to have like a criteria of things that and if you don't answer the question, they can't tick yes next to certain criteria because they don't know what your opinion is or what you would do in that circumstance or what you wouldn't do or the thinking behind it. It's not, is that the right answer? Because there's no right answer. And so it's really around why. But anyway, we're going into MMIs. Tell us the last one, CASPer style interviews. What are they all about? How do we do them?
So it kind of speaks for itself. It's similar to the CASPer. So it's an interview, it's not CASPer, but you have to record your video responses and you're basically just talking to your web camera, right? And the thing is that they're kind of good for the uni because they're cheap and they're easy to run. It's kind of similar to the MMI, but there's no humans responding to you. So you're kind of just like talking to the camera as you would to a normal human being. And then for some people, it can be off-putting to talk to a camera. I know that when I did my interview, it was MMI, but it was CASPer style. So we just like recorded the interview, uploaded it onto whatever, and they just marked it. And then you got told whether you got in or not. But I know that for a lot of like people that I was studying with, it like they found it very jarring to like, even myself, like it was so like, okay, I need to stare into the web camera and act like I'm talking to a human being and still somehow be confident as well. So it can be a little bit off-putting. I know that like the system can mess up as well. For example, I sat the interview for the Notre Dame and we had to do it twice because the first time they just had so many tech problems, which normally wouldn't happen, but it was just, we ended up having to sit our interview twice, which is crazy. But there can be tech problems with that.
And then you're like, oh, I did better the first time. Oh, no, I did better the second time. And then, I'm going to be marked down. And then all of the, like, thought patterns. Oh, my God, what if I did it wrong the second time? And the text stuff's up again. I have to do it again. And it just creates this, like, whole... I was like, come on, guys, let's just get the tech bloody right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's, like, already stressful as it is. And then you're like, oh, my video didn't upload. Great.
Right. Oh, my God. What were you like when you had to do it again? Did you just swear your face off?
I was in Hong Kong Disneyland when I got the email.
Talk about ruining your experience.
Oh, yes. I was in Hong Kong and I got an email saying we have to reset our interviews, and I literally called one of my best friends. I was like, and they were like, you poor thing, because the first time was stressful enough as it was, because you practice and stuff, but then you go sit it and then the tech doesn't work and you're like, okay, and then you get an email saying you have to sit it again. That's the thing, everyone in my cohort now, they're like, we wonder if the same people that would have gotten in with the first set of interview would have got in with the second one as well. That's so.
And so did everybody need to reset? Because you sat with you were practicing with four of you, bootcamp members together, for Notre Dame. Did they all have to resit, everybody did?
Everyone had to resit. So even for the Sydney campus, we all had to resit the interview. but luckily the three other people that I was studying with, we all got in, so that was really nice.
Oh, I remember just calling you. I was like, girl, and you were like,
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah,
We just leaned at each other for a little while. And then
yeah,
we're
I was
like,
just like,
yeah.
yay.
So
So that was
great.
really nice. But
But I
yeah,
think, like, no matter what the style, as long as you're prepared, so whether it's a panel, it's kind of that CASPer style, or it's more like an MMI, whatever it is, as long as you're prepared, like, the preparation doesn't go away. You don't, get to 3 days later and then you forget everything you've ever, like, learned. These are skills that you're learning. As long as you're learning, like, structured techniques and strategies and you have frameworks, then you just go and perform again, realistically.
exactly.
So let's have a little think about, like, some of the questions that can come up. What are some of the things that you see over and over again?
So this is kind of irrespective of what interview format you're doing, right? Like whether this is a panel or an MMI or CASPer style, any of these questions can come up. But like some examples of like general style questions is like, why do you want to be a doctor? Talk about a time where you resolved a conflict. And just like ethical style, like I don't know, like what would you do if a fellow student was like cutting corners on placement, things like that. So it's like they're trying to test for your ethics, your communication, teamwork, empathy, things like that, because they're trying to see like what do you like as a doctor or a medical student, right? So those sorts of questions is like they're trying to tease apart and see, okay, like what would you do in this situation? What do you like in conflict, to see how you work in a team? Because that's what you're going to be doing when you're a med student or a doctor, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
I ask so many students, why do you want to be a doctor? And it is like, I'm going to say a solid 80 to 90% of people are like, I like helping people. I like
Yeah.
science. Like the same. It's as if people have asked them and they're bored of the question. And then they just give you this like vanilla answer, generic. And it's like, please don't say that in the interview, because
Yeah.
that, not saying it's not true. Like, if you don't want to help people, don't become a doctor. Like,
Yeah.
in fact, if
Please.
you don't like people at all, legit,
Yeah.
it's probably not the profession for you. We've all had a doctor, like, as a patient, you're being a patient. We've all seen a doctor that genuinely doesn't feel like they're like humans. But realistically, like, if that is the only thing that is driving you to be a doctor, there's probably not enough if you want to help people and you like science, because there's lots of other professions that can do that. So if you really want to, like, get into your soul a little bit and have a fire burning, to me, like, the question of why you want to be a doctor is so important, because there are going to be times that you want to give up.
Yeah.
Like, there are going to be some really hard challenges that as a doctor you need to overcome. Whether, in fact, not even as a doctor, it's like even in med school, like, med school's not easy. Tom used to say to me, he's like, what we learned in our undergrad in a month, you learn in a week at med school, and then it backs it up every week. It's like month.
Yep.
But every week, it's like a week, month. And so that's hard. That's going to take some sacrifice. And if you're doing that just because you like science and you want to help people, well, the uni's going to go, well, what happens when these challenges come up? Are they going to persevere? Are we going to invest all of our time and all of our energy to someone that doesn't genuinely have this calling? Because I feel like that's what medicine is. It's not really a passion per se, because it's not really like a hobby. It's more like it's like a lifestyle.
Yeah, it definitely
And
is.
so, like, and I really want people to listen to this, because, like, sometimes knowing what not to say is just as important as what to say, and to really dig deep and to understand why you're doing it, and to be able to articulate that very clearly becomes important when you are, fighting for one place. It might be 150 places, but 300 people that are doing interviews for that place. How are you going to differentiate yourself so that they say, yes, Bhakti's the top of the list, as opposed to, oh yeah, she's vanilla like everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are they looking for? What are we actually like doing this for?
Yeah. So as I said, you don't want to like fake what you're saying or
No.
script what you're saying and just be like, oh, like they want to see this, this, and this, so that's what I'm going to say. But they can tell based on your responses what someone's like, right? And generally what they're looking for is things like emotional intelligence, big one, um, genuine motivation to actually study medicine, other than like, I want to help people or I love anatomy or things like that, you know? Because as you said, like med school is hard, right? Being a doctor is hard. And you actually really do need something driving you other than just, I love science or I love helping people. So looking for genuine motivation. They're looking for communication and reasoning. This is something like they've been drilling into. I've been at med school for 6 months. They've been drilling that into us, like communication, being emotionally present there for people, those sorts of things, and reasoning as well. Like same with the GAMSAT, like they're looking for your reasoning, but clinical reasoning specifically in the interviews, or seeing how you would be in a team and things like that. Professionalism is a big one as well, which is why they ask you those like scenario style questions. Resilience as well. There's so many times where you will have to be resilient. Med school's again not easy.
Hell
It's
yeah.
not easy.
As a doctor, like you're going to be sometimes giving people terrible news.
Yeah.
And having the resilience to be the one to say, okay, what are we going to do next? How are we going to do this?
Exactly. And then, just, how to deal with complex situations, as you're saying as well, and ethical challenges, because it's not always just going to be black and white, right? You're not going to be like, oh, yes, do this or don't do this, right? Like there will be times where it's like, okay, but there's so many other like external factors that I need to consider and, all these different things going on as well. And that's kind of what they want to see. Like, of course, they'll teach you those things at med school as well, and they do, but they want to see, like, as a baseline, are you able to differentiate and kind of, look past all these different things going on and still come up with a solution that is also considerate of everything else? Because humans are complex, right? And they want to see that you kind of understand that through your interview.
I remember there was this student I had, Zach, and like the way that we teach the bootcamp is we teach everybody the actual medical ethics, so like the do's and don'ts. And we're doing a practice question, and in the practice questions, to me, for that particular one, it was very, very clear of what was the right thing to do and what was the wrong thing to do. And when he was answering, he actually chose the wrong thing to do, not the thing that I personally would have done, but the way that he showed how he could handle the complexity and the ethical situation that it was, and the reasoning behind why he chose what he chose, he kind of I was like, oh, hell yeah, that kind of makes sense. I can understand how. And so it's not about the choice sometimes, and that's what people think. It's about right or wrong, yes or no, good or bad. It's like, this is what it is and here's why. And that's really around reasoning and understanding. That's handling complex situations, handling ethical situations, understanding, like being able to communicate, that emotional intelligence. It's all of the things put together. And like, this is what Tom was telling me when he was an interviewer. Before they kind of went, because he was in MMI stations when he was an interviewer. This is Dr. Tom. I'm talking about my husband. If you've been listening to the podcast, you probably know that. If you haven't, well, hello, welcome. I run a GAMSAT business with my husband. He's Dr. Tom. And so when he was an interviewer, they basically put them in different rooms, gave them the marking criteria, and people were coming in. And he said, before kind of doing a little huddle with all the markers together, he's like, they're not trying to catch you out. No one was there like, let's see who we can scrap off the list today. It was actually the opposite vibe. Like, all the interviewers weren't allowed to actually encourage. So they weren't allowed to say, yeah, you're on the right track, keep going, or anything like that. They kind of had to give everybody the same chance. So they were most likely just sitting there with blank looks on their faces, so that didn't give anything away. But they're genuinely, in their mind, they're like, please do good. I hope you do good. Come on, you can do it. Oh, you're nearly there. Like,
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
humans too. They're just trying to see how you think. They can see that you can stay calm and think clearly, reflect honestly. You know, if you can do all of those things, you're halfway there.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like it's similar to the GAMSAT, like it's such a massive like, oh, like it's me against them. But when you get to the interview, it's like they are genuinely rooting for you if they can see that, yeah, like you are a good person and they're trying not to catch you out. But it like again, they're just trying to see, yeah, all the things that you mentioned that you can, yeah, stay calm, think clearly, be honest.
I feel like, you know, even just going in with that mindset that no one's against you here. No one's
Yeah,
trying to make you stuff up. If you stuff up,
yeah,
it's probably you stuffed up. You know,
yeah.
which, I mean, that doesn't create less pressure. But, you know, like
Mm,
just having a positive mindset going, whoever's watching
yeah,
this or the person on the other end of the screen or the person in person, if it's an in-person one, they want me to get in. I kind of just feel like that feels nice. You know?
yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
always say to my bootcamp members, you know, if you're going to make up a BS story about what's happening out there, you might as well make a positive one.
Yeah, exactly.
Why the hell not?
Yeah.
What are kind of the best ways to prepare, or how would you say are the best ways to prepare?
Yeah. So there's, again, it's sort of hard because you don't want to plan too much, right? And you don't want to structure it too much. However, having structures and frameworks that you can kind of loosely use as a guideline to follow for your responses is really, really important, right? And there's a very thin line, but if you spend too much time, like if you're someone, for example, who waffles a lot, like you'll get a question and you're just like, oh yeah, like I've been a leader in this situation, and then oh yeah, but there was this time as oh, and there was this time. It's just like you're gonna run out of those 5 minutes that you get to answer a question very quickly, right? And chances are you probably didn't even answer the question. But having structures where you're like, okay, I'm gonna say this first, I'm going to say this first, then this, then this. And it's like you make a concise point, but you're still filling in the gaps with what you would say as you, right? You're not scripting it and you're not faking it, but you're just planning the response so that you have a clear, concise structure so that when you are answering, it's like you're able to get your point across in a very clear way and say what you're trying to mean, right? So, structures and frameworks are really important. They just allow you to answer any question thoroughly, which shows that, okay, you read the question and you understand what they're asking, right?
I kind of see that, like, you know, when you're doing the essay section in the GAMSAT,
Mm,
and if you just write, then most of the time you don't get your point across. But if you have an actual structure of this is the intro, here's my body, here's my kind of exit or outro, you know,
yeah,
like the conclusion, that structure actually
exactly.
encourages creativity because
Yeah,
you have a guide around staying on point and getting it across without the
exactly.
structure. And this is where, you know, I've heard people get in the 70s and 80s by writing a poem. And I'm like,
Yeah,
you know what? Good for them. But for most people, that's not going to work
mm,
because the structure is what enables them to actually get the point across.
yeah,
Um, so
exactly.
don't go in without kind of your step by step. What is your intro? What is your body? What is your conclusion? How are you going to structure? And in the interview scenario, usually, and the way that I do it is the beginning of a sentence is each step.
Yeah,
And when you have the beginning of the sentence, so the issues to consider are, and then it allows you structurally to go, what are the issues that I am considering? Okay, let's start with issue number one. And these step by step processes allow you to be creative, they allow you to answer the question, and that's where the marks are.
exactly.
So I love a good step by step process. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed.
I love it too. I think yeah, again, it's just so important to like be able to, and like, again, you're not memorizing a script. Like, I
No.
really want to hammer that in. You are not memorizing a script and you're not walking in with pre-planned responses, but you just have frameworks that you are able to use and kind of like grab different things and fit that into the framework so that yes, you're structured, but you're still yourself. And that's at the end of the day what they're trying to see, right? Because even in med school, like when you're a doctor, you're not just like walking into you know, a consultation and just like saying what you want. Like you have like a structure that you follow, but it's not scripted and you're not like faking it, right? And
No.
that's kind of what they want to see.
You know, I remember this year, I don't know, maybe I mentioned it in the bootcamp, maybe I don't. So we get all our bootcamp members to understand why they want to be a doctor, obviously, because it's such a common question. And even if you don't get the question of why you want to be a doctor, actually just walking in and knowing that in your brain and having that fire in your belly is super motivating, right? So all really good. But we don't get anyone to memorize scripts because Murphy's Law, right? They never ask you that question of the one that you wrote. Like, we just know that. So we get everybody to learn. And what they did at Wollongong was really strange. They wanted to understand, this was years ago, to understand people's motivations for why they wanted to be a doctor, but they didn't ask that question. They got people to like look at a little video of someone talking about why they wanted to be a doctor and then to reflect things back. That I can't remember the exact question, but basically the question got them to reflect back about that video, kind of infusing with their reasons why. And it was really insightful to me, and again, it was a few years ago now, is because if you just learned, I want to be a doctor because you were effed in that scenario, you just would not be able to. But if you are going in with your reason for being a doctor in your bones and can talk about it, then it doesn't matter how the question's asked. Like,
exactly.
Show me a goddamn video. Great.
Exactly. Right. That's the thing, like with these scripts, it's like, I understand the point behind them, that you don't want to like, you know, miss something that you wanted to say or like freak out on the day. But it's like the point is that you're yourself and you understand why you're there. You know exactly why you want to be a doctor. And it doesn't need to be a super like extravagant thing either, but whatever's true to you. And again, like even with these like ethical scenario sort of questions, like they're sort of not overtly asking, but that's what they're trying to see, right? Like, can you be a leader? Can you work in a team? Do you have empathy? Things like that. And they're not asking you, hey, do you have empathy? Are you, you know, empathetic enough to be a doctor? But that's kind of what they're trying to tease out from those situations, right? And that's what you need to understand, that like having scripts is just not going to help you, because most questions are like that. Like they're not trying to, you know, just explicitly ask those questions, but instead tease them out, and they can tell when you truly have that inside of you.
For sure. And I think that if you are rote learning, what you are actually missing out on is just answering your questions and doing it out loud. Like how many times I've spoken to students, and you too, Bhakti, where they're like, okay, what have you done to prepare? And they're like, well, I've looked at some interview questions. And I'm like, well, have you done any? I'm like, yeah, I've answered them. And I'm like, out loud. And they're like, well, no. Like, are you kidding me? It's like an Olympic athlete going, well, I've watched lots of videos of people swimming. Like,
exactly.
Get in the pool.
Exactly. And there's so many like smaller things as well that not practicing out loud will stop you from being able to develop, right? Because you could have like the most perfect response, but if you're sitting in an interview and you're like, yeah, so I want to be a doctor, compared to like you're confident and you're able to speak to the camera. And like that's a muscle you have to develop, right? To be able to talk into a webcam and like act like you're natural and just talking to someone. That's something you have to practice as well if you are doing an MMI or a CASPer style interview, right? And same thing, like working with a group or working with a coach, like if you're sitting those interview style questions in like a panel or even an MMI, it's like getting that feedback from other people, or being able to like, even if you just record yourself and listen back to it, being able to see, you know, where you're messing up or areas for improvement is so important, rather than again just
exactly. I mean, when you're doing it to yourself, it can be challenging because you firstly, I don't know, B, if you've ever looked at a video of yourself again, but it is the most horrendous thing when you watch yourself back. You're like, not that anyone is bad, not saying you in particular. I'm just saying like,
it's
oh
torture.
my God, watching yourself is so hard. And we're also our own worst enemy because we don't know what we don't know. It's kind of this, unconscious incompetence some of the time, and you
Yeah.
can't pull yourself out. So having other people around you, and these are, don't go for your meanest friend, like you got to have someone that knows what they're doing and can do it in a kind and compassionate way. But,
Yeah.
really working with a coach and having feedback, I think, is super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
As well as doing it out loud.
Yeah. That's so like important, because even when I was prepping for my interview, like initially, obviously, like I was in the boot camp, but initially I was like, okay, so I'll just like practice a couple of times a week by myself. And yeah, initially I was like, okay, cool, like it's fine, I'm learning things. But I hit a roadblock eventually where it was like, okay, but like I can tell that like these are the things that I need to work on, but what about my responses, right? Like, are they good quality? And like you can't mark yourself because you don't know what you're looking for, right? But then when I was working with, for example, that group of other 3 people, like we would literally get together every other day and we just like brainstorm responses and do it under timed conditions and just get feedback from each other. And they were all so nice. So it was just like really constructive. But then also like going to these like mock interviews with the boot camp, it was just like getting that feedback from people that have been doing this for years, and to be able to just like, you know, respond in front of a group of other people and be put on the spot. It's just like so important. And again, like building that muscle that I'm talking about. And then by the time you get to the interview, you're like, oh, well, of course it is stressful, but I've done, 80% of how well you do in any sort of assessment comes from the prep, right? 20% comes from what, like, happens on the day. But you can eliminate so much of that stress by just knowing that you have prepared and that you've done the best that you can to be where you are.
For sure. Maybe I can just quickly run through what's in the interview bootcamp, because I don't think that everybody kind of is going to be aware of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
so when
absolutely.
you went through, like, we start with like 4 online training modules covering everything that you need to know. So it's all the step-by-step kind of strategies, the frameworks, everything, all the medical ethics, all the types of questions, how to answer the questions. I'm going to say it again, but only because it's so important. The frameworks and the structures. The frameworks and the structure, the most important thing. And then all of the other little skills. So things like, how to build rapport fast, for example, which is not like the biggest thing. But if you've got the frameworks and the structures and you're practicing, and then you put rapport building on top of that, that's kind of going to get you ahead of the crowd. So lots of little, I kind of call them 1%ers there. And then access to like real MMI questions and real panel questions. And then what we do, and this is what Bhakti was talking about, is we put all of the bootcamp members in small little groups, and we encourage you to, so you had a group of 4, to practice together every day or every other day in the like 2-3 weeks that you've got between getting your interview and your interview, because there's a very, very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so you're practicing over and over again. If it's not every day, it's every other day, right? And then twice a week, we do mini mock sessions. So that's where you guys as a group will come to us and say, look, we've been doing our practice, but here are the really hard questions that we can't kind of hit. And that is where the magic happens. That's where you get an interview specialist giving you live feedback, and not just on any questions, on the hard questions, because you don't need help with 1 + 1. You need help with all of the harder, I was going to say additions, but not really, harder interview questions. Similar, like you get the analogy, right?
Yeah.
And then there's things like, the support you get within our Slack channel and our video library. There's so much. It's like a whole program designed to help you get through the most challenging part of getting into medicine. Most people think that the GAMSAT's the most challenging. And that's because they haven't looked at the interviews yet. And I shouldn't laugh.
And then you get into med school.
Yeah. Then you get into med school and the real hard starts, right?
Yeah, it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose.
We laugh, but like the trauma laugh, like, oh yeah, you kind of
laugh
in the
or you'll cry.
position. You're like, oh, thank God I got through the GAMS, and then it's like interview, and you're like, good job. But that's what the boot camp's for. You should never be feeling like you're doing it on your own, because it's probably one of the most challenging things you'll ever do. And being in a supportive network with someone that's showing you how to do it's going to be the easiest thing. The other thing that I'm super proud of is that, like, last year, 100% of our GAMSAT Bootcamp members that did the interview bootcamp got in.
Yeah. Everyone I studied with got in.
I'm super proud of that. And two things happened there. One, obviously, the way we got everybody preparing helps to get people in. And then the second thing is that everybody did the work. And so it was really hard, particularly if you look at, like, your kind of little pod that you were in. Everybody encouraged everybody, and you couldn't really slack off, because then you felt like you were letting somebody else down, and it meant that you practiced more. And look, the more that you're working at it, the better it is for you. So, like, it's a win-win for everybody. And so, like, I'm super proud of that stat, and I think that, we can help so many people get in.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I just wanted to add is, like, a lot of times it's like when you're introverted and you get your interview, you're like, well, great, I'm screwed, right? Because, like, it's hard to, especially when you walk in and it's a high stress situation, and it's kind of like, that is, again, like 50% of your application at that point. It adds so much more pressure onto someone who already, like, is introverted. And that's, like, I'm like that as well. Like, I don't really, like, feel confident talking to many people and things like that. But the boot camp I just found was, like, it's not just about, we're telling you whether your answer's good or not. But I just found that, like, the support of, like, okay, this is how you can improve your tone, or, how to project, how to appear confident on camera, how to talk to the camera, things like that were workshopped as well. So it's not just like, again, because it's like the interview's not just about, your response is good. They look at everything else as well. Your body language, your facial expressions, your tone, all of those sorts of things. And that is what, you guys help to develop in the boot camp as well. So if someone is like, I don't know how I'll go in the interview because I'm super introverted, don't really know, how to go about this. It's like, there's so much more that you have to that goes into a good interview. That's really well developed in the boot camp, I think.
I remember one year, it was like it must have been around COVID, when everything kind of started to go online and no one kind of knew about staging and cameras and all this stuff. And we'd been working online at that point, it would have been around, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. And so I remember saying, okay, well, we've got to set up our backgrounds, we've got to set up our lighting. And this, like, God bless him, I won't say his name, very ASD, like, lovely guy, but just, like, the emotion wasn't there in his responses. And he really was robotic. So he, like, again, lovely guy, because I know my bootcamp members, like, he will make a brilliant doctor, super smart, but the communication style just wasn't there. And I remember, I'm going to use this as a prop if anyone can see watching the video. I remember he put his lighting and it was, like, right under here. And it was like, he was talking and the light was, like, illuminating up. And he's like, is this the right place to do the thing? I was like, dude, you look like no, that's not right. That's not, you seem scary. Can we just move the lamp to, like, here? And then can we, like, and he got in that, he was so nervous because no one had taught him the step-by-step on how to look good, doing things online. He wasn't comfortable. He was like, he wasn't comfortable in even a live situation, but having the practical tools can make all the difference. Tonality matters. When to smile, when not to smile, how to greet. Someone said to me, like, oh, do I acknowledge country before the start of every single one of my answers? There's so many, like, small, like, questions, you know, that sometimes you just got to get through.
Yeah.
So next steps. What happens after the interview? You've done your interview, you smashed it, now what?
So let's just look at the timeline. So it varies every year, which is just so great because they can't just give us one day.
Oh, it's not like my life's hanging in the balance. Just give it to me whenever. When, like, you go, oh no, when you're ready, no rush. And in your mind, you're like, rush.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the March results coming out this year where it was like, oh, it's
Oh,
gonna come out on this day, and then it ends up being like a week later though.
oh my
Just
God, the like,
love ASAP.
yes. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Um,
But it's
so
true. They do.
yeah,
We don't know. They don't give us a date.
yeah. We don't know generally, but it does depend by the uni. They all come out at the same time because it's standardized by GEMSAS. I always mess up how to pronounce it, but um, generally it is early November that you will find out whether you got an offer or not. I remember when I got my offer, and everyone was like on Reddit,
Going off.
every GAMSAT person, everyone who's trying to get into med school has seen the GAMSAT thread before. So
Oh man.
everyone's on there like, oh, they're coming out today. But they come out early November, and they don't all come out in one shot. So last year, I think they were doing it in alphabetical order. So ANU came out first, and then Deacon came out, etc. But they also come out in rounds as well. So if you don't get into round one, you might get in round two. They even have round three for some universities.
That's round 4. I had a
Yeah.
student, in fact, Zach, one of my ex tutors, when he got in, and this was years ago, he'd be a consultant by now, so years ago, he had actually taken his family, he thought he didn't get in, right? It's January, uni usually starts like the week of Australia Day. And so
Yeah.
it's like mid-January, whatever. He's not in. He's taken his like 2 kids on holiday from Sydney and driven them up to Queensland. So he's like
Yeah.
around the kind of Brisbane area, whatever. He gets his offer and he's like, oh my God, I'm starting uni in like 2 days.
Oh.
So they finish their holiday. Literally, he leaves at like 9 p.m. He chucks the kids in the car so that they can sleep. He drives from like Brisbane all the way back to Sydney overnight, pulls up, his wife kicks him out of the car at the uni doorstep.
If that isn't just like what med school is, I don't know.
Zach is a badass. I think by the time he had finished uni, he had like 5 kids.
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, how do you have the time to like even conceive? But anyway, obviously he did. He is amazing. But that's what I mean. Like it ain't over till the fat lady sings. That's, like even the first week of uni, some people sometimes get an offer.
Yeah.
So be ready. Like, don't expect it that way. Like, obviously, round 1 or round 2 would be ideal, but it happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like, most students won't feel like they did amazing after their interview, and they probably won't be expecting any offer to come out as well. But it's like, you never know. And this is not to say that, like, oh, if you don't get in after round 1 or 2, that we're sitting here, oh no, you'll get in and trying to get your hopes high, but you literally never know. And worst case, like, you try again next year, but it's like, that's how there is a chance that, like, 3rd round offers come out, 4th round offers come out, etc. So it's not just like, oh, I didn't get in the first round, end of story.
I kind of feel like if at that point you don't get in, like 2nd round offers are out and you didn't get in, if you start, like, it's like Murphy's Law. If you start prepping for the next GAMSAT, it's like, I don't know, you're more likely to get a chance, like to get it. But if you go, no, I'm going to wait until all the offers and I'm not going to study it off the GAMSAT, it's like, you're tempting fate, man. Tempting, just like, pretend you're not in, and if you're in, it's a bonus, and then if you're not in, you haven't lost any GAMSAT study time if you're going to resit the GAMSAT. And it also depends on, like, if you don't get in, what went wrong. Like, if you're sitting on a 75 GAMSAT and a 6.8 GPA, it's probably the interview, But if you're on like a 67 GAMSAT and a 6.2 GPA, and then you had a mediocre interview, well, then that was just the horse that broke the camel's back. It's a systemic issue with all of the things, so we need to like look at it all.
Exactly. And there's so many people, like, even within my I feel like people, not that they bounce back from a bad GAMSAT result, but like, let's say you sit the March GAMSAT and you didn't do that well. People will be like, I'll just sit the September one. But with interviews, sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't get in. Now I'm going to give up. Right. Or I don't want to wait till next year to sit it again. But like, there's so many people in my cohort that have sat the interview multiple times. And, you know, eventually, like 100% of people who don't get into med school are the people that stop trying. Right. So it's like, you don't get in one interview round. Now it's like, at least you've done it before. So it's like, you know what to expect. Let's try again next year, right? Same with the GAMSAT. So
keep on going. And it's like, I always think like, what's your plan B? Because your plan B is never going to be as good as plan A. So just keep on going.
Yeah.
Just keep on trying. Like, I think that there's going to be so many people that message us that needed to hear that, Bhakti. Like 100% of people that don't get in stopped trying.
Yeah,
just don't stop trying. Like, and also don't do the same thing that you did last time that didn't get you in. You have to try something new. I remember I had a student called Shams. She came to me. She had done the interview. She's very special lady, I tell you, because I really, when I spoke to her one year, it was right before the interview, and I was like, what do you want to be? Like a doctor, da-da-da. And she's like, oh, I want to help people. I was like, well, what are you doing to help people right now? She's like, nothing. Like, you really want to help people? Anyway, didn't get into med that year. She also did not join the interview bootcamp. I speak to her the next year, and she's like, I'm going to join the interview bootcamp. I was like, okay, cool. And she's like, you don't know, but you inspired me. And I was like, what? Like, tell me why. And she goes, when you asked me what I'm doing right now to help people, I said nothing because I wasn't doing anything. And she's like, in the year that since I've spoken to you, I've gone away and created a whole NDIS business. So she started as like an NDIS kind of care worker herself. And now she had like a team of 10 that she had hired. Wow. She created this business around actually going out and helping people because that was genuinely a passion for her. And then she was like, I'm joining the bootcamp. Like there's no, next year she gets straight in. And it's like, that's an action taker. That's someone who's gone, I'm in this shitty situation. I'm saying one thing, I'm living my life a different way. No, I want to be a consistent and really speak my truth because it's my truth. And when she says she helps people, she's not there going, because I want to help people. She'd be like, I want to take my helping to the next level, mofos.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And then, and she got in the next year and she was like, oh, I wish I had joined that first year. And I was like, of course. But hindsight is a great teacher.
Exactly.
Learn the lesson, do something different, and you'll get different results.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like just doing the same thing over and over again. It's like some quote from someone.
Yeah, it's insanity, right? Was it Einstein?
Exactly.
It was one Einstein-like figure.
Someone important.
Yeah, let's not quote that in essays, right? So I think that's a wrap today on today's interview overview. So if you're heading out into interviews, I think it's really important that I say this, and I'm sure the Bhakti's going to say the same thing. You got this. You got this. Let's go and do it. Of course, if you want guidance, if you want support, if you want feedback, we're here for you. Subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And of course, if you found it helpful, please share this with somebody, pass it on. You're never alone in this journey. We are here to help you. Reach out if you need a hand. Bye for now. Hey, I have a cool gift for you, just for listening to the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast. We do some of our best work in our Facebook group called, you guessed it, Nurses Doing GAMSAT. It's free to join, and every day we're sharing actionable guides, tips and tricks, and really just how to smash the exam and get into medicine. You can join today by searching Nurses Doing GAMSAT on Facebook. Thanks for listening to another episode, and I'll see you next time.